Greetings, I am Herbert Erpaderp, and today I'm going to build some more of the models from the Project Z starter box by Warlord Games. I had a look at everything that you get in the box a while ago, and if you want to see that, check the link in the description, or the card that should be on screen now. And for anybody wondering, Warlord did send out a new set of cards in English as my box came with French language cards, despite being an English box, so thumbs up to Warlord customer service. Today I'll be building the bikers. You probably guessed that from the title. There are no instructions included with this kit, which is a bit disappointing. The very basic assembly diagram you see on screen now can be found online, and I've included a link in the description as well. The bikers come on a single sprue that can build 6 figures, 3 male and 3 female. There's also 2 motorbikes. I guess it's really 2 sprues if you count the sprue of round bases that's also included in the box. None of those are included on the main biker sprue, though as you can see there are 2 pill-shaped bases. There's a reasonable amount of variety on this sprue, though it all definitely fits a theme, unlike the male survivors which had a lot of random stuff. These parts are all kind of generic biker looking, leather, chains, and obviously bikes. The weapons are mostly shotguns or Uzis, or knives. There's plenty of heads, all of which are different. For some more interest, you could add some of those found on the survivors or vice versa. The parts are nice looking and neatly moulded. There are of course mould lines that will need to be removed, but they're not particularly bad. The only problem I have is the chain wielding arm. The chain looks like a big solid lump. You could probably fix that with paint, but it just doesn't look that great. Oh well, the rest of the parts are pretty good. The bases are textured a little bit like road, which seems suitable for bikers. Let's get some of these built. I decided to start with the bikes. There are 3 different handlebar options for the 2 bikes, and 2 exhaust pipe options. They should all work interchangeably, so it doesn't really matter which parts you choose. First, I take this exhaust pipe, which has a sort of keying on the back to guide it into place, and then I glue it on. No issues installing this, though you might need to apply a little pressure to get the ends to go in next to the engine. It was very easy to do, and I think it looks pretty good. I leave that to dry, and then I deal with the front wheel. I slip the wheel in between the front forks to make sure it fits together good and proper. I then add glue to the connection points, and then I rotate the wheel around to the correct position so the little bit of keying on the mudguard clips into the forks. If that's what you call them. You know, the wheel holdy things. Simple yet effective. Next, bike stowage. I glue these 2 saddlebags onto the rear of the bike here. I'm not at all sure that I've glued these on properly. The instructions are very unclear. Either way, I'm not especially pleased with how this looks. I fixed it up a little bit by attaching this roll or bag or whatever it is, and it makes the bike look much better. I finish it by attaching the front wheels and handlebar assembly. This slots right onto the hinge thing, or whatever that's called, on the front of the bike. It's very easy and it looks very motorbike. Not knowing anything about bikes, I can't tell you if it resembles an actual bike of any kind, but either way, it looks good to me, and that's what counts. The other bike, while a little different looking, goes together in pretty much exactly the same way. I do like that they're not identical. Now they need somebody to ride them. First, I build a male rider using this pile of bits. I start by gluing the 2 legs together. The left leg I chose will be down, as though the rider has stopped and is holding the bike up with his leg. You can also model this with both legs up on the bike. I'm sure that makes sense. At this stage, it's a little awkward to try and demonstrate how this will look. Then I give this guy a torso. Who doesn't want to have a torso? I nudge it around to try and get it to fit properly, but this torso seems to be a little bit wide for the lower body, so it doesn't quite fit properly. Maybe these parts aren't intended to work together. It's not really that bad. The join between the 2 different items of clothing can help to hide this. Before this guy can ride the bike, he needs arms, so that's next. I start with the left arm. I try to glue this on in such a way that it will look natural when the figure is on the bike, so I use the bike itself as a guide. This is pretty simple and well worth doing. If you don't do something like this, the figure might look weird and unnatural when you place it on the bike. I attach the right arm in much the same way. Nothing especially tricky about this. The rider looks like he's sitting fairly naturally, and I won't be surprised later when I join the 2 together. He won't fit on the other bike though, so be careful not to fit the 2 riders to the same bike. Finally, Mr. Bikesman gets ahead. I chose this one because I liked the helmet and he looks suitably bikery. Bikery is a word now, by the way. The head is pretty simple to glue on. I nudge it around a bit to make sure the gap in the neck isn't too bad and doesn't look unnatural. Not too bad looking. There's still a few gaps at the neck and shoulders, but they won't be hard to deal with. I'm leaving the bike and rider separate to make painting more simple. The other bike needs a rider too, and I figured why not make a lady using these parts. This assembly is pretty much the same as that of the male rider. The legs go together like so. There's only one set of legs for the female rider. There's another two for female passengers though. The torso fits a little bit better than the male's did, but it's still not perfect. I attached the arms using the same process as the other figure. For the left arm anyway. For the right arm I've decided to use one that's holding an Uzi. Of course, we don't need to use the bike to make sure the Uzi is on properly, but it's still nice to see how it's going to look. Of course, she needs a head. I chose this one because the hair is all blown back so she will look as though she's moving. Just riding around at top speed, blasting away at zombies or maybe other survivors without even stopping to get off her hog. Badass. Now for some standing figures. First, I'll take these bits and make a crazy axe lady. Who doesn't like crazy axe ladies? Unlike the rider figures, the legs for the standing ones are a single piece, so we can just glue the torso right onto it. I nudge it around until it looks as close as natural as I can get it. The fit is much better than the male rider, but it's still not perfect. The gap is worse at the front. Again, it could be explained away by the gap between the upper bodies and her pants. She is wearing pants, they're just very tight. Time for some arms. I really liked this casually leaning on an axe arm, so I glued that on, nudging it gently into position as best I could. I think I got it to fit pretty well. Then I give her a left arm. There were other arms with guns and things like that, but I felt this one was the best match for the rest of the figure. She just looks so casual. She's not worried about the incoming zombie hordes at all. I finished the figure with a head. I think this one is meant for someone on a bike, but I liked the long swept back hair, so I used it anyway. It fits nicely enough. I really like how this figure looks. It's a really cool pose. And finally, I'm going to build a standing male bikesman. This goes together pretty much the same way as the axe lady we just built, only using different bits, obviously. The torso I chose fits these legs pretty well. It is still a little bit wider than the bottom half, but it looks a lot more natural than the male rider. Next, arms. I found this a little bit restrictive. Most of the arms with the guns didn't seem like they would match the jacket. To me, this looks like it should have sleeves, and so I felt this shotgun arm was the best choice. Next, instead of an arm to help hold the shotgun, I attach one holding a revolver. It seems like this guy really likes shooting things, which I thought was an entertaining pose. I gave him this shouty head because I thought that was most suitable for this very sensible pose. There weren't any other shouty heads on the sprue to choose from, so there can only be one shouty shooty man. I think this is quite an entertaining figure. He looks like he might be in a desperate situation. And that's it. There are another two figures left to build from this sprue, but you've seen how the rest go together and that should be enough. I just didn't feel like building the other two under the camera. I'll build them when I'm relaxing and watching stuff. These models were quite easy to assemble despite the lack of instructions. I think a lot of the parts are designed to work with specific other parts, but the instructions are not comprehensive there at all. Most of them should be compatible enough that you can kajigger them together anyway, so you can pretty much do whatever you want, including using men's arms on women's bodies and things like that, if that's what you're into. These models are pretty nicely detailed and neatly moulded. The mould lines are of course there and you will need to spend some time removing them, but they're not especially bad. If you build plastic models, it's something you should be used to anyway. They look fairly realistic, at least for how I imagine bikers look, and there's a reasonable amount of variety, though it seems clear whoever designed this has a particular taste in women, and there's not much variety there. I do like that male and female bikers are represented on the same sprue, or box if you buy them separately, unlike the survivors which are divided into separate boxes. Oh well. I think these bikers will look pretty decent when, one day in the future, I get them painted. There will be a video when that happens though, so let me know if you're into that. The more people are excited for it, the sooner I'll want to do that. Let me know in the comments section below along with any questions or comments you might have. Also, feel free to subscribe to me here on YouTube, follow me on social media, or watch me live stream on Twitch. I recommend doing all three of those because of reasons. If you really like the things I do, please consider helping to support the channel over at patreon.com/herberterpaderp. That would be awesome. Check the links in the description for further information. I shall return soon, so until then, happy zombie killing and thanks for watching. Farewell.